The Agenda with Michael Knight on News Radio 560 KPQ and KPQ.com.
It's 1:35. This is News Radio 560 KPQ. My guest is Harvey Gjesdal, the retiring sheriff of Douglas County, and his new bride. Jen's here, too. Nice to have you both in the studio. It's a family affair today, so welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Sheriff, I will call you Sheriff for a couple more times.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to have to figure out what to call you.
I know.
I don't feel comfortable calling you Harvey.
Just Harv.
Okay, Harv.
Yeah.
All right, Harv. So be it. Why don't you introduce us to your new wife?
Well, I'm very happy to have my wife, Jennifer, with me today. She got married just a few months ago. She's a teacher, and I'm probably about the luckiest man in the world now.
So the luckiest man in the world is retiring. What are you going to do? You're going to let him hang around the house because Sports Center is on all day.
We're going to start by cleaning the garage out.
Oh, dear. Dear. Let's rethink that.
Yeah.
You sure you want to do that first?
It's going to be tragic.
I know. I see this. I see the tragedy taking shape. Well, good luck to both of you now that you're going to have your lives together, and it's going to be a whole new deal, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
In fact, what is it going to be, Harv?
Not yet, Mike. I think I mentioned last month, I'm looking at I'm not retiring from working, I'm retiring from law enforcement.
Right.
32 years is enough for me. So I've been looking at some opportunities out there. Thought about some retraining. I've still got kids that got to get through college and such, so I'm working pretty hard at that. Good
job.
Yeah.
How many kids going to school?
4. Yes, 4.
Give it some thought.
Yeah, I know. You have to keep the numbers right.
Are you detached from your daily chores as sheriff?
I had a meeting with my staff last week, and we came up with an exit strategy for me, and I pretty much have handed off, the duties to the people who are going to be managing it on my last day, which I think will make for a seamless departure. There's going to be no upset or questions about what's going on. Really, I come to the office, and if there's things that only I can sign or things that only I can do, I manage that. And, of course, I always have my work cell phone attached with an umbilical. It never gets too far away from me.
Do you have how many years as sheriff? I'm sorry.
12. It'll be actually 11 and a half. But
a lot can happen in 12 years. So think about your best day.
My very best day.
Something come to mind?
Not immediately, because every day is a great day when you're sheriff.
I hadn't thought of that. That sounds like something Mel Brooks would say, and then there would be a pause and something funny would happen.
No, we've had a lot of satisfying things happen. I don't know if it's absolutely the best, but, I was just going over out in the lobby kind of the things that the team has accomplished while I've had the privilege of being sheriff. And, it's, I think I mentioned this to you before, but the hardest thing about being in government is when the economy tanks. In my first year as sheriff, when I was trying to, pick up all the nuances of being sheriff, was like the worst financial year we've had in ages.
2008, I'll bet.
Oh, my gosh, yes. And here I'm coming in, I've got all these huge plans. I'm going to help the public, make people safer, improve their quality of life. And I go to our legislative body, and I'm sorry, Sheriff, we haven't got any money. As a matter of fact, you better start thinking about who you're going to let go. And, we didn't. We didn't let anybody go. It was a tough year. It was tense. I'm going to use the word politically very loosely. But, we got through it. And that was very satisfying to me.
Now, the opposite end of the stick. Worst day?
My worst days are when we get tragic things. Honestly, deaths, particularly deaths of children. You know what? I have examples, but I don't even want to rethink about them. I mean, stuff like that.
I think we have a vague idea.
I'll tell you what. I will tell you a story because this affected me personally. I went to a non-responsive baby at this place. And as I pulled up right behind the ambulance, and as I come to a stop, the medic comes run out of the house, and he has this child cradled in his arms, and the child had passed. And all I could see was the child's, little feet bouncing. And I tell you what, I will never, ever forget that image. It was so sad. When I cleared the scene there, I went straight to where my daughter was and gave her a hug.
About the best thing to do anyway.
That's the only thing I could do. Got to soldier on, but I mean, you can't. I couldn't deny the impact that image and the tragedy of what had just happened. I couldn't let it not get to me.
And were you a young sheriff at the time, not long on the job?
Gosh, I don't remember now. It was a long time ago. I was young, yeah.
Let's look at as a 12-year career. You're not the same sheriff for 12 years. You changed as you get wiser.
You do.
What did you learn?
Well, I got seasoned during that first year, and again, my mind is all glitter and unicorns, and everything's going to be great. And I got schooled on where I stood at in the political process. And see, in my mind, it's public safety. How can anybody argue with public safety? We're taking care of people. But the people that have to control what few resources we had, my gosh, there's roads, and people expect their stormwater to work. And it took me a while. And it took me a while to realize that, see, in my mind, I was just hard for a long time.
Right.
I had to realize that people do listen to what I say, and I needed to temper some of my words and my enthusiasm for my work. How did I put that?
That means you got smarter.
I got smarter. Yeah, I did. But it was all good. I mean, even the people in our local government that I had disagreements with, when a couple of them have retired, I said, thank you for educating me. It was an education. It wasn't pleasant, but it was an education.
How many times did you run for office?
Well, I ran for 3 terms. The first term was pretty heated, and no one ran against me the second and third term, so I'm going to choose to believe that was a little bit of a report card that we were doing okay.
And that's about the only way you can tell, I guess. I mean, you know what your officers tell you, you know what the city tells you, you know what your heart tells you. But after that, you have to deal one case at a time.
Yeah, I mean, my line staff, they get an annual evaluation, every year. The sheriff gets an evaluation through the vote of the people every 4 years. And if you win, you don't know exactly what you did right. I mean, people aren't really, in Douglas County and probably in Chelan County too, people were pretty good about coming up to me or calling me and saying, hey, I really like the way this went. I really like the way the sheriff's office and your team did this. And if something was messed up, they would call me out on it. And make no mistake, I'm not perfect. We're not perfect. But we would do what we could to make it right if it was appropriate.
Well, if we were perfect, we wouldn't need a sheriff, would we?
I'd have been out of a job.
In fact, perfection is something that we sometimes bestow on our elected officials even before they've earned it.
Yeah, and it's tough when you get elected. There are a lot of eyes on you. I mean, most people are just going about their daily job, and they may not necessarily care about what's going on at the sheriff's office. They're just getting through their life, and that's good. But when something rises above their radar, it's incumbent upon people to let you know.
And that's something a number of people in law enforcement have told me, that they can be anywhere at the Safeway. Of course, if you're in uniform at the Safeway, you're inviting commentary, but that's what happens. People just stop you in the frozen aisle and say, Sheriff Gjesdal, this, that, and the other.
I have another story for you.
Let's hear it.
So I was working out. I was at the gym. I got done exercising. And I went in the locker rooms to take a shower. And did I tell you this already?
No, but I'm seeing an embarrassed situation here.
I'm in the shower in the condition to expect someone in the shower to be. And this guy says, hey, aren't you the sheriff? And see, what had happened is we just had a homicide. We hadn't caught the guys yet. And so it was just kind of surreal. But he had some information, so I got that. I passed it on to detectives, and that's how that went.
You mean he had something to offer the case?
He did. Wow. It'd have been even weirder if he hadn't.
Just wanted to say hello. Yeah. So you are the sheriff, right?
Oh, boy. Anyway.
Well, that has to happen. Anyone who belongs to a gym knows that that's happened.
But what is really as enjoyable for me is, when people do recognize that you're one of their public servants and you walk through Fred Meyer or Costco and people recognize you and say hi, stop, chit-chat, I enjoy that. That is good stuff.
That's the best part about the political side of it.
It is. Yeah. And I'm pretty humble. Like I said, I was probably not aware enough of the position I held when I first got elected. And I'm still pretty humble about it now.
Did the uniforms get better? Seems like the older pictures of you, the uniforms were substandard in their tailoring.
They're really?
I thought so.
My pictures?
Oh, they were older pictures of the previous uniform. You wear a more simple blue one now.
Actually, the ones we have now are more utilitarian.
Okay.
I mean, they're cotton. They breathe. You can wash them in the clothes washer. And so we don't have to have them all dry cleaned. I personally thought, of course, I am getting older. I personally thought the older uniforms with the green shirts and the tan pants and the stripes were a little sharper looking, but they were pretty brutal in the summer. Yeah, they polyester wool blend or something like that. It wasn't very nice.
Not what we need. We need Tommy Hilfiger to get these new uniforms for.
I hadn't thought about that, but
I'll give him a call.
Yeah, right.
Like we talk.
Yeah.
Our guest is Harvey Gjesdal. He's getting ready to retire. He is your retiring sheriff of Douglas County, and we'll be back to discuss life and the future right after this.
The Agenda with Michael Knight on News Radio 560 KPQ and KPQ.com.
1:49 on a beautiful afternoon. Michael Knight with my very special guest, Harvey Gjesdal, and his wife, Jennifer. They're in our studio getting ready to make plans for retirement, but there's a few things that are still going on in the gritty affairs of the day, and among them the recent helicopter crash. You covered that?
Yeah, that was pretty lucky for the pilot. It was just north of Orondo on Highway 97, about milepost 230 up there. And apparently this fellow was doing some sort of agricultural work and got wrapped up in the power lines, and he went down, and apparently he was able to actually land on his skids and walk away. And, you know, someone was looking over that man.
Yes.
I've been to several helicopter crashes and ultralights and different things, and those are pretty difficult to walk away from.
They don't go down well.
Yeah, and, you know, it's something they got to do. It's spraying, it's blowing the damp off the cherries after it's rained. I get it's got to be done, but like I said, it's dangerous work, and I just hope those fellows get paid well for the risks that they take.
Now there's that helicopter out there in the middle of nowhere. How do they get? What do they do with it?
Well, actually, the owner of the helicopter, I believe he's a local man, said he would get it out of there. So,
okay.
But I don't know if you recall the crash we had up above Wells Dam. That was more of an experimental type plane. That was the fatality, but getting that out of there was somewhat of a challenge, I understand.
Getting to that crash site, as I remember, was really difficult.
We had to take our four-wheelers up there and do a lot of hiking to get to the crash site. So, but you do what you need to do.
While you were waiting in the lobby, you made a short list of some of the achievements or some of the highlights of your career that you wanted to discuss. And well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, you know, make no mistake.
He who tooteth not his own horn, that same horn shall not be tooted.
Make no mistake. I understand. I didn't do all this stuff. I mean, I may have helped with some of the stuff, or maybe I just stayed out of the way of people that could do it and had the brilliance to get through it. But
that's a talent too.
It is, and you know, I don't like to meddle. If someone's got it, then I'll check in on them and make sure they're still motivated. But no, we've done a lot of great things. I don't know. We talked about some of this stuff. We're doing the active shooter training with the schools, and not just the schools, but the PUD and other government buildings. We've got another class coming up somewhere this week. It might have been at the PUD. Anyway, I sent a couple of guys the most current training that they had on how citizens should respond to that if they're stuck in a situation like that. They put together a really good PowerPoint. We're getting that out to people, hoping that, you know, maybe it'll save someone's life someday. Alert Sense, we talked about that. It's another layer of defense to get word out to people of fires, floods, natural disasters. That's used for a lot of things. We're redoing our policy. Have you ever seen our Special Operations Center?
No.
It's the fifth wheel we have. It's about a $250,000 asset that we got through a grant, and it's a mobile command post is what it is.
I've seen those.
Yeah, it's awesome. We had a fellow here that was one of our emergency managers, and he got a grant for that. So literally, not just Douglas County, but this entire North Central Washington has this at their availability. So that was good.
Have you used it in incidents?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everything from helping manage a fellow officer's funeral to homicide scenes. I think we loaned it to Border Patrol one time because they were doing an operation up north. During the fires here in Chelan County, we loaned it to them as an operations center. It's state-of-the-art, and it's getting a little bit older now, but it's just a huge asset to the EMS people in this valley.
An expensive piece of equipment.
Yeah. Yes, we're gonna keep it up. I think we're resealing the roof on it this year.
Excellent.
So, yeah. We got a new evidence room. Law and Justice building is in the hopper. I understand that the commissioners are prepared to research bonding a portion of that, but the evidence room was already paid for. I mean, we own it now. How often does that happen?
I can't believe you didn't have the one before that was up to your standards.
You know, it comes down to you prioritize your needs.
I know.
You know, if you got to buy bullets and first aid kits first, and that's what you do. So
From ABC News, Wall Street.
our staff is better than it's ever been. We're up to 30 commissioned officers now. One of those is a school resource officer up in Bridgeport, which we partnered with them, and so they're sharing the cost with us. The commissioners thought it was a great idea, so we're doing that. We haven't had a school resource officer for, I don't remember when.
What does a school resource officer do? Does he stay on campus?
Yeah, they stay on campus. They don't work with the school. It's still a sheriff's deputy, but their obligation is to stay on campus, handle any problems they have there, but also make themselves available to the staff and students. And, you know, with the staff and students, you're building relationships. Everything starts with building relationships. And we have a young deputy, Sam Tonseth, up there, and he's going to be great at it. You know, Jen, you know Sam, don't you?
I do.
He's a pretty good guy.
Yes. My students, my fourth grade students are very excited. They know.
How do they interact with those officers?
Really well, actually. My students love Sheriff Gjesdal. They were constantly making him crafts during the year. He'd come in and they'd just run up to him and give him great big hugs. I mean, they're.
You know, one thing about that, and you can call me Harv, by the way. One thing about that, too, is, little kids, all they want is a hug. They just want some attention. They're excited. And I love that. But if you're not in a school setting all the time, you forget that a classroom full of grade school kids is a giant petri dish. I might have caught a few colds that year. I'm not sure.
You will come down. Whatever it is they've got, you're going to catch it.
No, but school resource officer, they're not there to be a heavy. They're there to help and be a resource.
So we're just about done, Harv. Sheriff Gjesdal, and I'm sorry that the time is up. I'm not telling you to retire. I'm just saying that our half hour is up.
Understood.
But the what do you take away from the whole thing now that it's just about over? You did it, and now it's over. What do you think it was like in several words?
On the last minute of my last day at work, I will have the best job in the world.
He's the retiring sheriff of Douglas